Hi guys, welcome back to Sin City Living. Jason here, bringing you today's video, which is just the next one in our almost intermediate level dealing videos. So today I'm going to cover pass lines, lays, fields, just some, again, not intermediate techniques, definitely not advanced techniques, but the next stage, things that dealers need to know and be skilled at by the time they hit the 3 to 6 month mark of dealing. This is the part where, unfortunately, a lot of newer dealers start getting cocky, thinking they've got this down, that they've mastered it, and when in reality, they still are at the below basic level. But these are certain things that they should know. When I covered the last time around, talking about how the core skills, sizing ins, drop cutting, and picking needed to be handled and known at this point. They should have been known after finishing training. One thing I want to just mention, I suppose, a little anecdote. So yesterday, I had one of my former students come into where I worked, and we were talking for a little while. And he was pointing out that one of the things that stuck with him the most from when we were teaching him was that we told him, once you've been dealing for a little while, you're going to be tempted to drop your procedures, because you're going to see a whole bunch of dealers that don't do proper procedures. They go hand to hand with checks. They don't cut out the payouts into the cum. That's the number one thing that goes away. They go straight from the stacks to the players, so on and so forth. I mean, there's a ton of them. And he said, you know, it's crazy. He'd seen it happen. He saw so many dealers that didn't do procedures, and yet he's only been dealing for a few years. Within about 7 or 8 months, I remember he had made it to the Strip. He had made it to Center Strip. And now he's at one of the premier locations here in Las Vegas, has actually turned down a suit position, promoting up to supervisor, but now works in their high limit room, dealing to players with multi-million-dollar lines of credit that typically play with millions of dollars at a time. And he credits it entirely to the fact that he never got lazy, that he continued to do all the proper procedures from the get-go. Now, let's look at some possible advanced things. Now, the first thing I want to say is that as a dealer that is still breaking in, it's got the 3 to 6 month mark, so you're getting ready to move on to your Tier 2 casino, which is still an off-strip, quasi-break-in location. I do get a lot of people that ask about 3, 4, 5 odds. Thing is, at this point, the dealer really doesn't need to know it. They don't need to know 3, 4, 5 odds, because 3, 4, 5 odds start coming up Center Strip. Off the Strip, the break-in houses and most of the Tier 2 casinos, they're still dealing with 10 times and 20 times because they need to set themselves apart from the rest of the competition. 3, 4, 5 is, of course, super easy. We'll cover it at another time. But again, not important. Not important at this level. Now, one of the first things that comes up is we're dealing with a point like 6 or 8. Now, let's say we're on a $10 table. You don't find those Center Strip very often, but you can find them off the Strip still. 15 tends to be the norm, which I'm going to cover in a second. But you can still find the occasional $10 table. Now, one thing that you run into with players that really don't know how to play or aren't very experienced is they tend to do the minimum bet and then the minimum odds, and they never deviate from that. So there'll also be minimum up here to where they end up with this massive stack of red if they catch a hot roll, because they're not getting paid anything that reaches the green. Now, you could start having, you know, hey, drop me $11, stuff like that, but it gets a little convoluted, and especially when you've got a full table and you don't want to slow it down too much. So the pass line bet. Now, this pays 22. 10 pays 12 plus 10 in the front is 22. One of the first things that you should learn is to pay it 27 for 5. It's one of the very, very, very first things to learn. 27 for 5. Now, you can do that and really start playing with it if you like. Look at this. 20 pays 24 plus 10 is 34. It pays 34, right? But let's say they've got literally a few $100 in red. Why not pay it total? Pay it 54 for 20. You're not supposed to, by policy, mess with the pass line bet, but you can mess with the odds. You can manipulate the odds. You can use the odds for your payout. So why not pay them 54 for 20? Makes it easier for you. You get to take some of, not only do you get to give them green, but you actually take red back, which is pretty nice. Right? That's one of those things that is really, really useful. Now, here's one for you. And this one actually comes up fairly often. You've got a $15 pass line bet and 16 odds. Now, why do you have 16 odds? Because again, most players are just going to do the table minimum, especially newer players. So if you're on a $15 table, they're going to do 15 in odds. But on the 5 and 9, you're going to tell them, hey, put $1 on top of your odds. It's going to pay you better. So now they've got 16 in odds. Now, what does 16 pay? 16 pays 24. So you could, of course, just size into the stack. Right? That's going to give you 4 white and 4 red. And then size into the front. But if you keep doing that over and over and over again, they're going to get overloaded. This time they're going to get overloaded with white. Now, you don't quite want to go to a green yet. You can pay them 25 for 1, but you don't want to quite go to a green yet until they're really loaded down with red. So you want to pay it in red. Well, this is what I see a lot of lesser skilled dealers do. They'll drop cut 5 and then take 1. Now here's the thing. When you drop cut your 5, you force the box or the stick, whoever's watching, to have to focus on that payout for just a second. They have to focus at it. They have to look at it to make sure that it's proper, because it's not something that we see all that often. Generally, you want to do your payouts in a way that is something that is seen a lot and so easy to read that you do it subconsciously. If they pay these properly, and the easy way to read, my eyes skim over. I skim over. I see it out of my peripheral vision. I know it's proper subconsciously. I just know it's correct. What you do is you size in and drop 1. I don't have to read anything. I have to read nothing. I saw you size in. I saw you drop 1 before you took the $1. You're good to go. Good to go. That pays your 24. 25 for 1. Okay? Now, there's a lot of techniques you can play around with on those pass line bets for overpaying and taking away. So pay attention. It's not something that you're necessarily going to practice at home until you see it at work a few times. Then go home and practice it. Now, what about the field? So the field, here's an interesting one. Let's say player just drops some... Let's say the player just drops some kind of rainbow down, right? And a 2 rolls. Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to break it down. And what do we have? We have $58. Okay, now that pays double. That pays $116, right? But another technique for this is actually triple it, especially when you get something like this. Let me give a real good example. Because players will do this if they're getting too much. If the dealer's not paying attention to their rail and letting them load up, they'll do something like this. They'll give you a big-ass tower of white and red. So the 2 rolls, so we got to break this down. What do we have? We've got 75, 85. We've got $88, right? Triple it, $261. So we're probably not dealing with black yet, so we're going to cut out $261. Okay, so let's think about it. You got 240, all right, that's tripled here, plus 15, that's tripled here, that's 255. And then, oh, I'm sorry, it's 264. For some reason I was thinking 2 instead of 3, but 264, right? You triple it down, triple it out. You've got 264, so you cut out your 264 in the cum, the proper way. You stack it up, you bring it out, and then you take their entire bet. Because what you see a lot of dealers bog down with in a situation like that is they're looking at it and they know, okay, because again, you've got $88, here, yeah, $88, which pays $176, pays $176. So you see dealers that go, okay, this pays $176. Now they're trying to think of, okay, 176, 186, and I can take those. And then another 75, and I can take those and put in green. They're looking to substitute this stuff out to get it back. Instead, just triple it. Just triple it, cut that out, pay it, and take everything else back. It's the quickest, easiest way to do it. Same thing if you have a 12 roll. If you have a 12 roll, do the same thing. Break it down. Right? Same thing. We've got $88, okay? Now, multiply it by 4, okay? You've got $352. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut out $352. We're going to bring that out. We're going to take everything. So now we have tripled their payout. We've tripled their payout, and we took back this rainbow that you know they're going to put again into the field. Typically when you start seeing that, they're going to keep putting it in the field over and over and over again until it finally loses. Just a major pain in the butt. All right. What are some other things that the dealers need to know once they've been dealing for a few months? Okay. First one. Let's say you're at a 10 times odds location. Okay. Player has their pass line bet. The point is 9, and they just drop down a rainbow. Now you've got or not a rainbow, a big stack. They just chunk it down. Now you've got a big game going. You've got a lot of players. You don't want to stop the game to break it down and run it down. Also, telling the player, hey, your max odds is $150. Yeah, that's great. You want the player to play as much as possible. So it's just a odds play to the max, place the rest. That's what almost every house is going to do out here. They're going to place the rest. So once it wins, once that 9 rolls, you're going to run it down. There's their 150, and the rest of it you're just going to set up as a place bet. And you're going to pay it as a place bet. All right, 200 pays 280 over here. This 150 is going to pay 225. Right there, 240, 280 plus 240 if you wanted a total, but you should not total this. Pay these separate. You can total this up, but pay these as separate bets. Okay, speaking of totaling, proper totaling is when you are saving checks. When you are saving checks. And what I mean by that is, let's go back to this. I see this all the time. All the time. All right, 10 pays 12 plus 10 is 22. I see that. You know what that is? You know what every floor thinks when they see that? That is an extraordinarily lazy dealer. You know why? They didn't save any checks. If they paid it properly, pay the odds and then pay the pass line, they're using the same number of checks. Okay? Here's another example. This one I also see fairly often. Somebody does 30 odds on a 6 or 8. Well, 30 pays 36, plus the 10 is 46. I will see dealers that will do this. Okay? Well, let's look at this if I paid this properly. Okay? If I cut out, if I paid 36 to the front and 10 in the back, I have used 1 green, 4 red, and 1 white. This, I used 1 green, 4 red, 1 white. I saved no checks. I just total it because, well, I'm lazy. I'm lazy. And the floors look at that and go, oh, that's a lazy dealer. Now, if you're actually going to save checks, then by all means total, which, this would be a great example. Maybe 5 right there. That'd be a great example. Or, if they had 15 up front, you want to total it and use green and give them green instead of giving them red, by all means. That's fine. That's fine. But totaling means that you are saving checks. Saving checks. Okay? So I hope you guys find this interesting, helpful, illuminating, enlightening. Thank you everybody for watching, and we will catch you guys next time. Bye now.